Welcome to the Fight Game. He's Icewater, I'm Puma, and we had a few fights last night, both in boxing and MMA. We had Composis and Hitchens, which Hitchens won the fight, and I've never seen anybody just dominate Composis like that in his career. And then we had the Cruz and Meshuggah fight where Cruz gets one step closer to the lightweight championship, IBF championship. We had Usman, Buckley. We had the Rose fighting. So I'll let you start where you want to start, man.
Yeah, I think you have to start with Cambosis Jr. versus Richardson Hitchens. Tough fight for Cambosis. What we're learning now about Cambosis is the fact that when he faces any fighter that is able to be mobile or has a jab or can box, Cambosis has trouble. If you think about it from the standpoint, he lost to Devin Haney twice, who's a mobile fighter, could move around as much. He lost to Lomachenko, who did some of the same things because it's almost as if Cambosis is more or less a stationary target.
Right in front of you, though.
Yeah, and he's just not moving a lot. And if he can't get close to you, then you can just kind of throw that jab at him. And that's what Hitchens did. He kind of walked him down and waited for him to definitely run out of gas. And after he kept tagging him with a very sharp jab, there's nothing he could do. It was just a matter of time. And then, of course, the one culprit that always been an issue for Cambosis Jr. has been his body. So you hit him with a body shot and just kind of crumbled near the end. It was just a matter of time. But Cambosis is a tough guy. He was able to defeat Teofimo Lopez, and I don't know if he had an off night or whatever. But Cambosis is a warrior. He fights tough. He does not relinquish. He will not back down from anyone. He'll challenge anyone. But his style, unfortunately for him, is not conducive to fight a guy again that's mobile. And that's been his Achilles heel, if you will. We mentioned back, you go back and look at his fights. Somebody that's mobile can move around, bounce around a little bit, because he doesn't have the biggest power in the world either. And usually that kind of means that it's going to be a rough night for him. And the other night was no exception.
Yeah, I was watching the fight last night. It just seemed like Kambosos was outclassed. It looked like he didn't need to be in the ring. And I say this respectfully. I respect all these fighters who get in the ring, professional fighters, because it takes a lot for professional fighters to get in the ring. But it just didn't look like his night from the first round to the eighth, where he just got knocked down, technical knockout. And you could see the blood on his face. You could see that he couldn't stop the jabs. He couldn't stop the attack from Hitchens. And Hitchens was, game for it. He was game for it. And I like Kimbosa's attitude after the fight. He said, "You know what? We're boxing. We're boxers. We box. Win or lose, who cares? We're here to fight." And so, but Hitchens really had some words for Devin Haney and his dad, like "F you, F your dad." Let's go. I guess the Teofimo Lopez fight with Hitchens didn't work out because Teofimo has his own plans, he said, but he spared no, spared, he didn't even contain himself by calling out Devin Haney and his dad. And so Devin Haney got 24 hours to respond, bro. You got 24 hours to respond to this because this dude wants you and wants you bad. And it's like, I knew this was going to start happening after they protested the fight with Garcia, and people are going to kind of see that this guy is not all he's cracked up to be. And they saw some flaws, and everybody's coming out, and they want him bad.
Hey, I love it. I love it because now we perhaps will we start to receive the fights and the competition, the matchups that we've been looking for. And kudos to Hitchens, even though he came bodied it in a very unorthodox way. But the fact that you call a man out and say you ready to go, it's hard to turn that down. We will find out what type of fighter he is. I think Hitchens is very talented, but I think where he's the trees barking up is next level. But if you say you want to be great, you got to go. You got to go after the great one. So
It's hard to argue against him because the way he handled Cambosis, I mean,
yeah,
it was like Cambosis was an amateur in that ring. and it was like I was like the ref for both fights. We'll talk about the other fight later, but both fights, I'm like, you need to stop the fight. Kambosos is not going to win this fight. It's not a chance. He's going to get hurt.
Yeah, styles make fights though. Like I said to you earlier, styles make fights. And if you have a guy that's coming straight forward, not going anywhere, a la, and granted for him, he does it well. Rolly Romero, he does a one. He's a one-trick pony. He's going directly at you. If you can move around and sidestep him and wait and be patient, then you can usually win the fight. We'll see though. I mean, I'm glad Hitchens is all for all the smoke. I'm glad he's ready to step up in class, and I think it's going to be amazing. But Devin Haney's still Devin Haney. Remember too, Devin Haney beat Kambosos twice over in
Right,
Australia.
right.
So I think makes for a great matchup. I'm here for it. I hope they do fight soon.
So I'll ask you this question. We can move on to the undercard fight. What was more impressive to see? Hitchens beat Kambosos or the two Haney fights to beat Kambosos? Who were you most impressed with and how they handle Kambosos?
Well, I mean, I think Hitchens,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that at the same time, the approach was very similar. If you know that a guy is limited in what he can do, and you have the ability to be mobile and be able to adjust when he's coming at you, you just wait. And
Right.
that's what both of them have done. So I was more impressed with Hitchens, but I think that when you look at it from the same standpoint, though, Campos is a little bit more worn down now, right? He's not the same fighter he was to me when he fought Devin Haney. He suffered a couple of losses since then. He got rocked by Lomachenko, and he's not the same guy. In his mind, he is grit, and he talks a lot of stuff on the podium. But clearly, and that's not taken away from Hitchens. That's why I want to see Hitchens take a step up in class like he's prepared to do now.
You could tell last night he's not the same fighter anymore. The undercard was Cruz and Mishiru, and this was a fifth round stoppage where Cruz was just manhandling his opponent. And I was even in my living room talking about, man, you got to stop this fight. You got to stop this fight. This kid's going to get hurt. And Cruz is a guy that I hadn't seen before, I have to admit, but I'm really impressed with his skills after this particular fight.
Yeah, he stepped up 6-0, which I was really surprised by the fact that he's only had 6 fights. But he took it to Mashiro, took him down, and did not waste any time. It's early still for Cruz. We still need to see him in there with some other folks. I don't want to make him the greatest champion
No,
yet.
not
Well,
yet. No.
I mean, but he was definitely entertaining and talented, and it's great to see young guys like that. But now we want to move them up, a la seeing somebody like Abdullah Mason, right? It's time to put them in there with some folks and see what they can do on that next level.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. Now let's go to the UFC. There were a few fights last night. Rose, she won her fight, but she didn't really look impressive. But the fight that I was really looking at was the Usman Buckley fight. Really, Buckley came in as a champion. Usman's trying to get the championship belt back, and you could just tell he was there for it. He wanted his belt back. He looked hungry. He looked like the more aggressive fighter. Buckley was trying to win the last round. I think Rose, she had a 3 round fight, and she needed the third round to win because the fight really wasn't going well in the first 2 rounds. But Buckley was trying to do the same thing. I guess his corner got to him and said, "Hey, you need to knock out the win," because he was taken down, I think, almost every round in that fight, which Buckley showed that he really doesn't have a ground game, or he needs to work on the ground game a little bit more because I guess Usman figured out that was a weakness of Buckley. He could stand up upright, but Usman wouldn't let him do it. Your thoughts on the fight?
Looking at the fight with Rose first, I think the one thing when you watch Rose when she fights or has been in professional, I think she really performs based on the level of competition. You think about that sometimes. I'm not sure she had a off night and take nothing away from the competition, but every time you put her in there with a more of a higher quality opponent, it seems like she raises her game.
Right.
And she
Yeah.
did just
I didn't
enough to
think
win
about
that.
that before, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah, yeah. When you say, oh, well, Rose didn't really look that great, but then you throw in there with somebody, you go, minus Amanda Nunes, right? Somebody else that you go, wow, she really was able to come in there and do what she needed to do. and that's what she does. She's always been that way. She's kind of like the underdog. You go, man, why? How is she even matched up? But she always rises to the occasion. So maybe that's what was happening for her. In regards to Usman versus Buckley, Buckley was the champion, and he came in very confident. One thing about the older champions, the former champions like Usman, you can never really get relaxed because having that veteran ringship comes in handy. And if you don't come in on top of your game, a former champion, a guy like that, can come in and just snatch away from him. A la when we saw even in boxing, we watch how George Foreman was able to upset Michael Moore.
Michael Moore, yeah, I remember that.
You can't. I mean, these dudes are crafty. They're older, and you just never know. Anything can happen. And Usman has been in that space before, so you have an off night. You can't, as a champion, you can not afford to have an off night against a young guy.
Yeah. Let's circle back to boxing. And the fight is set in Las Vegas. And there are a lot of moving pieces to this. And I want you to talk about it and explain it because I don't understand it. You're the fight guy on this show. So I don't understand what's going on with the contracts and Dana White and Turkey and all this other stuff is going on. I was just sad that Netflix had it because of the debacle they performed, last year. But your thoughts on this particular fight? And should I get my plane ticket to Vegas right now?
Yeah, I think you're good to get your plane ticket. A lot of things have happened. We didn't know what was going on, trying to figure out where the location was going to be for the Crawford versus Canelo fight. There was a lot of things going on as far as Dana White being connected to it as well. There was the issue with the date. Initially, the fight was scheduled for September 12th, which is a Friday. And they were saying that because UFC was scheduled for the 13th, they just not want to collide on the same date. And I think a lot of it had to do with Dana White wanting to be two different places. So one day he would be here, the next day he'd be another way. So anyway, with all that being said, we'll come full circle now. We know that the fight, Canelo versus Crawford, will take place in Las Vegas, right? It's going to take place on September 13th, which is a Saturday. But here's the thing that gets really tricky because we thought it was going to be a pay-per-view fight, but now stuff has come back full circle. That's why you had to just kind of wait and be patient, and it all kind of works itself out. So according to what we know now, Turkey Al-Sheikh, who is the actual promoter, has now been behind the scenes working very hard and diligently trying to find out how this is going to go. So a couple things have happened. The UFC has been forced to make a change in their original event, which was scheduled for September 13th. Why? Because it was scheduled for Mexico. But the arena that is being built, they're not sure if it's going to be completed in time for September 13th. There've already been some cancellations in regards to the actual building being finished, and they just could not have it ready in time. So with that being said, the UFC decided to move that event now to San Antonio, Texas. And they moved the date. The date's going to be September 12th, which is that Friday before. So they moved that there, which opens the door wide open for the Canelo Crawford fight to be by itself on the 13th and in Vegas. And guess what? Now Dana White can participate. He and his crew. So what did they do there? Was we went from pay-per-view to not going about Netflix. Now that Dana White's connected again back to the boxing match of Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford. Woo! Guess who comes back into play? Netflix. Because they're connected to the UFC. Okay? So now everybody's ready, happy again. It's going to be on Netflix again. Netflix, please put some money into this. Get some folks to know what's going on from production and everything. I know it's your first time with boxing, but it's going to be a lot of eyes watching, wanting to see. You have to get your electronics and everything, all your circuitry together, because you do not want your boards and whatnot to crash again like they did and people were complaining they couldn't see the fight. Please, please, please get this together because everybody can't go to the fight. So that's where we're at right now. In regards to the venue, I think we'll probably end up seeing them at T-Mobile because they do have an open date, right? As you know, Allegiant Stadium in Vegas is not open. The Raiders Stadium is not open because there's a college football game scheduled there earlier in the day. And MGM, the arena is probably open, but it's an ego thing. That's kind of a Floyd place. So what they'll do to be opposite of that, they'll in this Canelo, oh, they will go across the street or go across the way and go to T-Mobile and just do it their way, that way. Also, too, with it being the Mexican holiday, it's going to be some rumblings and some things going on there too. So trying to make it more or less like opportunity to celebrate the Mexican holiday with a lot of different people from all different places, and it's still a marquee fight, and people will still be watching. Be interesting to see how things continue to develop.
My fight people, have a backup. Don't rely on Netflix. Have a backup. Whether you're gonna do Fire Stick, Roku, whatever you need, have a backup. I'm serious. This is gonna be bigger than that fiasco with Mike Tyson and the other the dude. But no, have a backup because this is gonna be a big one. This is gonna be the fight of the century as they build it up in September. Don't rely on Netflix. I have Netflix. Don't rely on it. Don't rely on it. You'll miss the fight. I don't care. Watch it on TikTok, whatever. Have a backup.
Go to a bar.
Go, whatever you got to do to have a backup because you cannot rely on Netflix. I've seen them in action. It didn't work out. Didn't work out. I didn't even want to watch the fight. They made sure I didn't. Okay, get a backup. Get a backup. Who's in this? Moving up in weight.
Yeah,
Sorry, like.
Yeah, I mean, and I sigh because of the factor that it appears to me, just my opinion, Bruce Ennis has been at 147 for a little while now, and he went back and forth. It's always been something. It's always been, well, we're trying to unify the titles, and well, we want to wait to see if he's ready for this level, and then well, it's always something, always excuses as to why he won't fight the best people. Virgil Ortiz is the guy we want to see matched up with. And I understand why initially they did not want to make that fight. Because it's too early. You don't get the full value of it as far as making money. I get that. You can wait. But now all of a sudden, Bruce Ennis is going from, instead of trying to unify 147, now I can't make the weight anymore. The doctor said it's not healthy. So he's going to jump to 154. Okay, great. He's going to 154. But now you want to fight Virgil Ortiz, which you need a warm-up fight. So the warm-up fight you propose possibly could be Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman is the same man that's fought 4 times in 8 years. Talks a great game. But maybe that's what you want to work on. There's also been talks about Erickson Lubin being a potential candidate for as an opponent. I wouldn't mind seeing that fight. Erickson Lubin still has pop left. He's no pushover. He's a little smaller in stature, but that would be a good matchup. But then again, I'm glad at least Boots and his group are finally realizing that it's time for a Virgil Ortiz fight. Ortiz wasted no time moving up in weight to 154. He wasted no. In fact, he bypassed waiting on try to play that 147 game for too long.
Yeah.
So very interesting to see what happens with Boots. But hopefully now we'll get to see him fight somebody of a significant talent and caliber.
He's Icewater, I'm Puma, and this is the Fight Game.